All right, have another InfoSec tools video coming out as per request. Somebody made a comment last night, at least at the time that I'm sitting there doing this recording, basically asking for some sort of video covering email analysis and forensics, if memory serves me right. Yeah, class-S heart. So, figure I'd take a wild stab at this. I've already got other emails in the pipe, so I'll go through, get this put together, and have it out this weekend in short order. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So before I start, I did dig around for spam, something else like that I would have access to. Figured, well, let's start off with something that would be just outright malicious that we'd probably end up seeing. Surprisingly, there are not that many, or at least I'm not aware of places to actually grab like .eml files to go through and do analysis on. So my first thought was, besides Googling, I happen to recall that malware-traffic-analysis.net usually tends to, have deep dives into various other things. So maybe they'll have an email file I can take a look at and kind of dissect a little bit. So lo and behold, yeah, they have something that's reasonably current, 11 days old, at least at the time of recording, for the 17th of January 2022. Oh, Astaroth activity. So I grabbed the first file off of there, the EML, which dumped into Thunderbird. Looks like this. So as it sits, this is a supposed email. I'm assuming in Spanish, Brazilian, something like that. I don't know. Not English. But it claims to come from Environto Fiscal 426 at sylvia.onmicrosoft.com. So if you were sitting there getting something like this, one, this doesn't look like any sort of Microsoft email I've ever seen. And then obviously, how you go about actually pulling the headers, everything else like that, unfortunately is different for every single different client. I think it's a couple of button clicks inside of Outlook. What I'll do is, I think I had found and bookmarked previously a page. Let's see. Let's get the email out of the way quick. Yeah, so Outlook, Gmail. I think some of these other ones will too. I'll try to grab the most relevant ones. So again, it's going to be different for everybody, but effectively I would assume it would be Outlook, Gmail, and probably Thunderbird for anybody who's still got anything else, because I mean, Outlook Express is gone. I'm dating myself. But I think Thunderbird would probably be a decent one. So, but we'll come back to that. So effectively, we'll go back to email, and from here, make sure I've got it up. Oh, I never hit the transition, so it stayed there, huh? Regardless. That's the one thing. I should probably come up with a hotkey combination to transition. But so we've got all this. Don't obviously want to go clicking around for anything, although I mean, as we can obviously see here, just like with Outlook, you just kind of hold the mouse over it, and down in the lower portion of the screen, or window, it will give you the rendition of the email address, but we don't really want to go through and click it. I don't suppose. Okay, yeah, we can copy link location at least through here. Depending as to how they do it, like if it's an image, stuff like that, you'll probably have to take a look at the source. So we'll show you how to do that. So at least for Thunderbird, there's more. And then view source, which doesn't look like that's actually being captured. But just trust me, it's the second item from the top when you do more with the window open. And you're greeted to this. A little bit of foreshadowing. So we've got the headers here. So we can see that the reply to is at Environta Fiscal. Since it's Sylvia Montenegro. Regardless. Message ID. It's not coming from on Microsoft. Yeah, so you take a look at the received by, trying to trace all these things down in terms of, okay, where'd it come from? Well, we've got an IP address, and I'm fairly certain if we take said IP address, 46.148.234.126, and we'll go ahead and put that in. So let's get these out of the way. But let me guess. Okay, yeah. Sorry. There's the email source from the actual email with a bunch of base64 encoding at the bottom of it. But so what I've grabbed here is the received from. So we'll take this down, transition back over, and here it is in a bunch of different sites. So OTX is Russian Federation. Passive DNS basically comes back with a bunch of, obviously, non-Microsoft DNS. Yes, reverse DNS for this one. Brazil IRIB 07.irib. Finance IROORG Brazil.cloud. Definitely not Microsoft. Tagged as malicious, but of course related tags since we're doing something with Astaroth. It's at least transitioned here. So we go back to, so Talos, again, tells us it's Russia. Network owner is not Microsoft. Like we didn't get that previously. So virus total, country RU, again, denoting not Microsoft. Okay, so we've got all that stuff, but what exactly does it mean? So usually with the headers, I mean, granted, the sending address, sending IP can be spoofed. But the biggest thing you should be taking a look to is to what the reply to is. So this, I'm willing to bet, probably wouldn't actually end up going, or if it actually does, I'd be surprised. But not too many people are going to sit there and respond to that. They're going to sit there, see the button, and they're more than likely going to click, if they're going to fall for it all. If they're overly paranoid, they might reach out to somebody in IT and be like, hey, I got this weird ass thing. Can somebody take a look at this? Or if it's been made easier for them, maybe they hit one of the buttons. Like, I think, KnowBe4, Cofense, a lot of the big players have buttons that integrate into your email clients to be able to submit the stuff to have somebody take a look at it. But you're looking for the receiveds, so you can sit there and get the IP address and backlog like what we did from, because obviously if it's coming from a Microsoft address, we're expecting that the IP address from the sender should be something to do inside of Microsoft's ASN, which upon looking, we don't see that being the case. And the message ID does not match up. Although interestingly enough, it does give us, or it does match up. on at least the domain side with what we got from the domain after the sending IP. And of course, we get a blob that's base 64 encoded. Generally, that's not the case. So if we go through and let's get the source out of the way and make sure it's transitioned through. Was that actually, did I have that up the entire time I was talking or not? Try to keep things organized, and I'm just not doing a very good job. I think I need more coffee this morning since I'm doing this effectively bright and early. But effectively, okay, so here's the message, or the headers along with the actual message. Everything base 64 encoded, so we go ahead and take that, dump that into CyberChef with a from base 64. And so here's our input up here, and then what she breaks down to. So if we go through, start digging through this, we do see the same exact link that was being showcased when we hovered the mouse over the button in the actual email. So this, and of course I'm jumping all around, translate to the same thing as this. So http://is.gd/oc6ano, so on and so forth. Okay, so we've taken a look. We'll go down that rabbit hole, but effectively take that, dump it into VirusTotal, sandbox it, secured web browser, whatever you've got to go through, have this stuff dump through, and basically see what the other side looks like. What is it? URLscan.io? I think is another one that would end up being good for that portion since they spin something up and hit it and take screenshots. Or any .run. Probably not so much hybrid analysis considering the fact that you can't really drive the interaction. But anyways, we'll come back to that. But effectively, our big thing is, okay, the headers. So out of everything, grab all this, and we're going to copy and paste that into, as it sits. I think Microsoft has a email header analysis site. Google provides one, and the granddaddy of them all tends to be MX Toolbox's header analyzer. You can use whatever ends up working for you, depending as to how you go about doing it. But so, for example, let's get the email source out of the way. And so this is what it looks like when you dump the header into MX Toolbox. So right off the bat, so nothing for DMARC, no SPF record, no DKIM. Generally, especially seeing as how it's 2022, at the very least, there should be SPF. Like for an email from Microsoft, legit Microsoft, not to at least have SPF would be kind of a kick in the butt. But here we see, again, the order of transition. We got something from this Brazil.cloud, and apparently trying to reach out after a 4-minute delay to the 46.148.234.126, which is the Russian IP address. And having this dug through, we can see that obviously it's that IP address is on a blacklist. It basically breaks down the rest of it. So there's no actual DMARC record for Sylvia on, or Sylvia.onmicrosoft.com. And it basically gives you a breakdown, or at least a better looking section for what the headers look like out of everything that was submitted. So the aspect from here to keep in mind is if it stands out. I don't know how well it will, but effectively this header is now permanently on the MX Toolbox analyzer. So you can go through and you can share this URL with other people to have them take a quick look. Maybe you need a second opinion. Maybe it wasn't as quite cut and dry as what this sample was. The other aspect to keep in mind is that obviously down at the very bottom left, you can have it go through and purge the header to knock out the information. It really depends as to standard operating procedure as to whether or not leave anything behind. If this looks like this could be somebody's taking a massive swing at you, you might not want to leave any sort of evidence to tip your hand that you're on top of somebody that's trying to go through and do this, trying to attack your organization, anything else like that. That should probably be a discussion I record at some particular time in regards to when OPSEC is absolutely important, especially from the line of a SOC analyst, threat manager, anything else along those lines. But so that's just something to keep in mind with MX Toolbox. Now, obviously, Google's, it doesn't look like it gets saved. And I think it's the same thing with the Microsoft one as well. I'll grab the links for these and obviously put them in the description of the video, everything else like that. But here we get much less the same thing. We get the message ID, which stands out. So everything's presented a little bit cleaner than just, a notepad-esque style stuff just rammed together. Subject from created, and then pretty much the traffic as it traveled. So again, we get the same exact portion. That IP address that's Russian. It's a little bit more sparse on things. It just not great. But at a quick glance, especially if the MX Toolbox thing goes down, that has happened before. Let me see if I can quickly find Microsoft email header analyzer. So remember correctly, it was just... Okay, yeah, this looks familiar. The message header. So let's do the same exact thing. We'll give Microsoft a spin while we're at this. So here's the same exact thing, copied in, and again, just presented in more of a less is more functionality. So breaks out the same stuff, pulls out the subject, message ID, creation time from, reply to, and then gives us a similar path that this email went through, much like with MX Toolbox, although no big graph or anything else like that, bar graph. So, but again, and this looks like it's the same thing where this is, there's no permanence to this because there's no extra URL portion up at the top. There's not a string attached to it that you could basically drag with somebody. So there is all of that. So those are the standard set of tools that you go through and use, the standard type of stuff that you'll go through and take a look at, the sender's IP, and then pretty much the domain that the thing tends to port from. So you'll take that IP, dump it into your, Intel tool of choice, OTX, IBM Threat Exchange, Talos, VirusTotal, any of them, and basically just see as to whether or not the stuff matches up. Now, the key thing to keep in mind is that if there's a third-party service in the mix, so you're talking about your proof points, anybody else that effectively does email filtering back and forth, usually you'll see the stuff come, or there'll be a hop in there. It may rewrite as to who's sending it. depending as to how everything comes through. So if it claims to be, from some other organization that may not be as big as Microsoft, because I'm assuming Microsoft would not want to sit there and quote unquote sully themselves by having another company defend their email infrastructure. Even though anybody who's got two brain cells to rub together knows that effectively you're going to sit there and you're going to do O365 with hosted email, you're going to get somebody else involved to sit there and clean that stuff up. Microsoft does not do a very good job, in my opinion. But effectively, that's something else to keep in mind as well. If somebody goes the extra mile to make sure that email security is, done and done right, it could show up instead of coming from bobsautosalvage.com, could show that it's coming from, like, what is it? PP Host, I think was one of them for Proofpoint. Just something to bear in mind. Okay, and then so the same thing from the particular links. Don't know as to whether or not if we really need to go through and start chasing this thing down or not, but like I said, effectively, it's going to be the same exact aspect. You got something to scan? Scan it. There are any number of different tools that are readily available. So let's just do a quick look. So virus total look 2 days ago. Fortinet marks it as malicious. And Brazil email pushing. Astroroth. It looks like it eventually redirects to medium.com. Of course, this is also 11 days old, so they might have hammered that good and gone. But honestly, I didn't run down this particular aspect far enough ahead to see if any of these things were still alive. It's a little bit outside of the general thing, at least in terms of email, but I guess technically trying to ascertain as to whether or not a link is good or bad is kind of one of those more important aspects as well. So yeah, multiple redirects just to pop us out at medium. I know any of those rewriting like bit.ly, is.gd. I think there were a couple of other ones that are usually tend to be used. The shorteners are a pain in the butt. I mean, great if you got something you just, super long URL that you need to remember. You basically get the sucker shrunk down to, bit.ly/6 characters, 8 characters. I forget what it's even up to by now. But at least looking at this 11 days later, this doesn't really look like anything that's terrible. Now, because obviously it's more in the heat of the moment, you'll probably find something. The other aspect would be to, again, sandboxing it. So any.run, or hopefully you've got your own personal sandbox you can sit there and kick up and go hit up. So let's see, for another example, this is going to be fun. Did I not? No, I did set it up. Okay. So let's bring this one into play. So I went digging through my Gmail account in the spam folder. So we're going to just pretend that it doesn't bother to say, that this is spam or appears to be spam. We're going to assume this actually made it past the filters and was sitting in the inbox. So, okay, what are we looking at here? We're looking at an email that purports to tell us that somebody signed into our Facebook account. So the biggest aspects we're looking for now, again, this was in the Gmail web client that I'm looking at this. So again, things change a little bit more. But effectively, so we can see at least at the top. So FB support at TDBY or HYYPC.us. So reports to come from Facebook. First thing we're looking for, okay, does the from match? Swing and a miss on that one, guy. Or girl, I guess technically. If I remember correctly, let me pull this up. I think they tried to send it. I don't really want to share the window that I'm pulling this from. Hang on one second. Okay, we're going to try this. Oh yeah, this looks a lot better. Okay, so this basically broke it down. So as you're looking at the emails, let me guess, it's not capturing them. Oh, of course, it's not capturing the mouse because I could use the mouse in this particular aspect. But effectively, emails come in, there's a down arrow that you can basically expand so we can see that this email was sent via kolikpnbt.best. Definitely nothing to do with Facebook or Meta, I guess, as they want to be termed as now. Mailed by, yeah, so the same exact portion. And then basically, the other takeaway from this is paying attention to the email address. Now, in a corporate organization, they're going to have their, they could be first name, last name at org.us or whatever the case is. So I'm pulling this from personal Gmail. The real contact is wit.brett. This got sent to witbrett, no dot. So the other aspect, and I can tell because down at the bottom of the message, this message was sent to witbrett@gmail.com. It's just above the fold here. Actually, don't I have the highlighting tool? Maybe I can. Yeah, right here. So obviously it was sent to, Gmail will accept things like that because it uses the dot. Just kind of removes it. Fun tip for those that want to sit there and kind of space out their Gmail address. You want to figure out who's leaking stuff. Depending as to what services you sign up for, just change where the dot goes. So if I actually had signed up with Facebook, then it would provide, might do w.brett@gmail.com, something along those lines. I don't remember as to which other services do the same exact thing. I would not expect the same for your corporate email, though, to work. But they usually have a naming scheme that they would all go by. So obviously making sure that it was intentionally sent to you is kind of the bigger portion. So then the question becomes, okay, we've got all that stuff, so how do we go about taking a look at this stuff? Well, inside, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to sit there and, oh, I can copy to clipboard. So, okay, let's do that then. Screw it, we're doing it live. If I thought about trying to actually do something a little bit more, it might have been better. Oh, good, this works just like the other. So let me get the web browser gone from there. So we're looking at that. I need to do a window capture. Oops. Notepad capture already exists. Okay, fine. Hey, and look at that. Although I would really like to try to keep it in line with everything else. So we're going to have to make this a tad bit smaller. as we go through and look at it. And then, of course, like everything else, yes, I know, it just basically right now looks like I'm just talking to myself. I do apologize for that. I'm just trying to bring this in line. Okay, I got it. So, transition. All right, so I've copied it from the Gmail. This is the same exact email. We got the same exact portions, like what we're expecting to see. So this is a bit beefier in terms of email header than what we observed with that Astaroth sample email. So we have the same exact portion. So deliver to, received. So let's see things that would kind of lined up. So we've got an SPF record coming this time. Domain key, DKIM. But so we've got date, we've got the received that are the same, return path, and the like. So we're going to go ahead and grab that. And then, of course, if we go down, we start getting the actual encoding. So notice not base 64 this time. So it looks like they tried to grab a, I don't know, is that an icon? Something? From the actual Facebook domain. We're looking for something because obviously I can't expect that it's actually going to direct towards. Okay, a user just logged into your Facebook account from a new device, iPhone 11 Pro. We're sending this email to verify that it's you. And we have a bunch of email addresses in there. Now, tell me what legitimate email is going to have a mail to address to basically hit all of these different things that does not end in, like, do they own meta.com or facebook.com or anything else like that? So let's see, we got proton mail, mailo.com, net-c.ca, Outlook, Hotmail. Different service there, guys. Mail.ru. We get another one, so Proton Mail, so on and so forth. This message was sent to, we get the same exact portion. It looks like to try to send to unsubscribe. And we go down at the bottom. We have an image that directs us someplace else, which we will take a look at. But first things first. So let's get Notepad off the screen. We will go back, and so starting with, well, I'll leave the header. I'll leave the other aspect too. So but there can be comparison done if someone's that enthusiastic to take a look. All right, so here is our Gmail header. Okay, so SPF. So notice the difference at least right off the bat. So the very limited header info that we did get with the Astaroth sample as opposed to a supposed Facebook phishing email. We got more hops. But so we have here, what's this, dlfakctz.org. Again, not Meta, not Facebook. Next jump in sequence looks like a JPYLJ or GEUY.org. Again, not Meta or Facebook. To a smtp.lijxdwtu.org. Again, not Facebook or Meta. And then the kolikpnbt.best. And then basically hitting up mx.google to try to actually have it delivered to me. Again, not Meta, not Facebook. So we see no DMARC, published, but it does give us the SPF record for the KOLIKPNBT.best. And then any other information that we have there. So if we go message header, now to Google's, we plop that in there, analyze the above. So SPF, yes. Temp error for DKIM. Again, message ID. From to subject, kind of the key points that again, the order of progression as the email is sent and sent and sent and sent and sent, because it's not like it's direct. It is going to go through a couple of different hops in most cases. And if we do the same exact one inside the Microsoft Analyzer, more or less the same subject, message ID. We get the hops as laid out in terms of delay. And then more of the actual headers as kind of spaced out a little bit better than just a wall of text. So effectively from there, that's what you're looking for. So obviously we took a look. This purports to be from Meta/Facebook, but we don't see any of the domains. And I guess if we wanted to cover our butts to the best of our ability, granted it's the last chain in the cycle, but obviously it's the only IP address that I see that's readily in handy. So let's pop her into our various tools. I'll have to come back to this so I can scan the French. Not that that necessarily means good or bad. But since we've come this far, I'm going to grab the... I just want to make sure, let me go back to my actual email itself. Report the user. Yes, it's me. So wait, where is this portion where it actually comes in? Interesting. Both the report the user and yes, it's me. And then there's a track. That's what it looks like. Okay, so maybe this is not outright crit phishing. This looks like this is just to verify that they've got somebody they can try to hook. Yeah, so it works out exactly as expected. You go through and click either button and report the user, and it tries to send an email to all those people that were listed in there. Okay, I have absolutely no idea what these people are trying to do then. And I'm assuming that the link didn't... Yeah, so I'm assuming it's probably just to track to see what gets open, but given the fact that it's identified as spam, at the very least, none of the images were pulled down. No, I guess it wasn't a very good example to sit there and take a look at. It looked promising that it was going to be, Facebook phishing, but given the fact of that it specifically denotes tracking. So let me pull the notepad back up. Right down there, I've got it highlighted. So I'm assuming that would probably be a unique identifier for the whitbrett@gmail.com. That would then denote that, hey, we've got a live one, short of if it actually gets opened up. then add it to the fact of if somebody's actually stupid enough to click one of the links. It's kind of a little bit disappointing, though. I was really hoping it was going to be a phishing email as opposed to anything else. And then obviously take whatever links you have, run them through VT, everything else like that. The other aspect of the links too, they could end up being single use. That's the other aspect to keep in mind as well. So you may go through, get a malicious payload off of one as you're analyzing it before it gets sent back. So obviously keep track of any notes that you might be taking in regards to that. So any URLs that might be generated. So if you go through, submit something to VT, you get results, grab the URL for the results and just kind of keep a running tally. It's like, okay, here's another one that was trying sent to me from Facebook. And it looks to be more or less the exact same. Either button opens up an email to send to a bunch of different people with different options. And of course, you have the adult ones involving various pills and everything else like that, which I don't think need to give them any. Oh crap! And of course, the ones that are quote unquote adult propositions. Best way I can put it. I don't really have much of anything else. Of course, I also try to avoid signing up for a bunch of crap. But yeah, so that's effectively it. Take a look, compare the information in the headers to from fields to the sending IP address to make sure that there's at least something that you can recognize. There might also be something at play here. I think most of the email clients, I don't think the Google Web Mail has made the change, but there was a portion for something else to keep in mind. Punycode, Punycode. So basically, in an attempt to be, I guess, better support, you can basically throw in a bunch of different scribbles. Basically, have that stuff run through. I think another YouTuber did a video on the same exact subject to be aware of in regards to this stuff, and they did their own testing. I will see if I can find that and add it into here in the description. So basically, you go through this, you get the basic portion, and like with anything else, you have further questions on something else like this. Hell, you even got something that you want to see about running past me. That we can make a video on in terms of, okay, send me the stuff. We can go through and see what we can come up with. Depending what it is, you might have to figure out how to extract the headers and then maybe dump it in a password protected zip file or something else along those lines to be able to get it to me. Because depending as to, one, what kind of checks your email service is going to do versus what Google's going to do once the stuff comes in, who knows? But yeah, the rest of this is all just generic crap. But yeah, it's all constructive criticism, or you want to see more of a particular subject in regards to any of this stuff, hit me up. Either reply to the video or leave a comment on the video. Wouldn't say I'm heavily active in the Let's Defend Discord, everything else like that, but I am on Discord. I believe it's just InfoSec_Brett, much like the Twitter handle. So I think I got the DMs open on that. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I think I do have it open on that. So I guess if we can find another couple of examples, we can go through and run those things to ground. But so I'll get all the notes, see if I can find the video that previously talked about Puni code and the like from a different YouTuber. I thought it was rather informative, and if I can find anything else that might particularly help, at least as it sits to email analysis, see if I put it in the descriptions, or maybe if there's enough, um, make an email analysis too. But so there we go. With that all being said, I'm gonna start hunting for extra things for for notes for the description. But besides that, I will see everybody in the next video.